Welcome back to another episode of Shark Jockey Weekly, where me and Calvin Pace bring you some of the latest in sports stories and culture. And we're going to bring you four quarters and some overtime of news and stats and everything that's going on in sports. So this week, we're going to jump into week 2 of college football, give an analysis and break it down. So, Pace, let's start off this first quarter, man. We're going to give me your review of the top 10 ranked college football teams' performance from this past week. Who you got that stands out?
Um, I think at the top, Georgia did what they were supposed to do. It wasn't clicking on all cylinders. I think they found a running back and a young kid, last name Frazier, out of Compton, California, of all places, and Athens, Georgia. But he got some juice. He can get to the second level. I think for Georgia, my questions really stem to the wide receiver position, like who's going to be that guy. Although Georgia's known for running the ball, good defense, even quarterback play, they've always had a standout wide receiver going from A.J. Green, Hines Ward back in the day. Reggie Brown had a long career with the Eagles, so on and so forth. Um, I'd probably say, man, the most impressive, man, was USC. I mean, it's not top 25, top 10, excuse me. I know I'm kind of all over the place, but to me, they look like a top 10 team. To me, USC looked like, excuse me, um, top 10 material. And then you had teams. Notre Dame looked good. That was a game I picked, and I actually picked Texas A&M strictly because I thought Notre Dame's offensive line was young and inexperienced, and they actually destroyed my whole argument at that point. They started off slow a little bit, kind of feeling their way. I mean, they got a true freshman playing left tackle, bro, and he held his own. I mean, he took some lumps, but I think by the way that they're coached, and just with their identity being physical up front. Marcus Freeman is a former Big Ten linebacker, so he understands the type of brand of football that he wants. They were outstanding on defense, though, man. I'm talking lights out. The front did their thing. Kid I mentioned last week, Xavier Watts, I think is a first round pick at safety, made a big play. Ben Morris in the corner made big plays. I mean, they held their own in a hostile environment. And then, I'll say, Alabama did their thing. I mean, certain teams had games that were pretty much guaranteed to win, and they did what they were supposed to do. I think, if nothing else, they wanted to get the win. They want to get some good film, some teaching points, good and bad. Excuse me. Maybe you have some revelations at some positions. Maybe you see a guy who, I thought you were going to do this, you didn't do that. Somebody else stepped up that we didn't think was going to do much. So let's give them some more reps, that type of thing. And so then you start looking at how the season is structured. So, you know, unless you're like Florida and you got the world's hardest schedule, I don't know what the AD was thinking on that, but Alabama's gonna have another game that it isn't gonna be a stressor. So maybe you start working some guys in. Maybe you start either you expand your playbook or you decrease it depending on how things went, and kind of go from there. I mean, but again, Florida State lost technically 2 weeks ago. They were 10. They literally went from it went from literally being a contender to just being in a trash can at this point. Clemson top 10,
No, they came in at 16.
16. A lot of answers, and I know I'm kind of getting off schedule here, but I think some of these teams were top 10 material in their mind, even LSU, who I still feel good about. I really do. And if we're talking top 10, I think you got to put Miami in their performance in top 10 contention, just from how they played in hostile environment. Totally took Florida out of everything that they tried to do. Literally, there's videos of Florida players going to the University of Miami of Florida. There's Miami players going to the University of Florida recruits telling them like, man, y'all might want to come to Miami. That's how bad they whooped them. Fans filing out early. I mean, it was a total, just call it what it is, ass kicking. And then I think that's what Mario Cristobal. That was the game he needed. That was the game Cam Ward needed. And at this point, it's in Miami's court, man.
Yeah, when I look at the top 10, I saw a lot of consistency. You know, the top 10 did what the top 10 was supposed to do. They all won. They won by fairly large amounts. Yeah, you had the Notre Dame play that close game against Texas A&M. Something about the way Marcus Freeman coaches at Notre Dame makes you want to pull for him. Yeah. Makes you want to see this thing through. I think he is that coach that is going to keep them consistently in that top 10 and lock them into a quality playoff spot. And again, they early in the season, they went to one of the toughest places to play against another well-coached team, close game, and they came out on top. That's the way you build momentum going in when you're that top 10 team and you're playing against another highly ranked opponent on their field early in the season. The other teams in the top 10. Say what now?
Have you seen Notre Dame's schedule?
No, I hadn't.
They're favored in every game the rest of the season.
But again, that's what happens when you come out the way that they did. Again, they're showing some.
I'm speaking to the strength of the schedule. It's trash. Outside of USC, the last game.
Well, that kind of goes with Miami too. The toughest team Miami plays is Georgia Tech, and that's not until mid-November when they play. So I think that when I look at that top 10, Georgia, in the Georgia-Clemson game, I was not shocked that Georgia won. I was disappointed at the way Clemson played. And I think it's at a point where Dabo's made his statement about how he feels about how he's going to manage that program, the way he's going to do it. I think Clemson, as an athletic department, has to make a decision. Is this the way we want him to run football? Because he still has to answer to the donors and the athletic director. And when they're not seeing that result, if you have a way of managing and running things and you're producing, people aren't going to care. But when the way you're doing it is not producing results that they're looking for, and you're not winning, and your competition is doing these other things that are perfectly legal, then now you've got a target on your back from the inside, and that can be tough. But when I look at that top 10, everyone in that top 10 played like a top 10 team should, and they all handle business. And it's almost like it's going to be hard to crack that top 10 moving forward, especially with the implications of playoffs, rankings, who's going to finish where, conference championship games. Again, I was happy to see that top 10 do their thing. But, nobody really stood out. There were no surprises per se. But, again, I'm glad for me, I come out a Marcus Freeman fan after that with what he's done at Notre Dame to put them set up for a great season. As you mentioned, when you look at their schedule, who they have to play, and where they could be at the end of the year, an undefeated Notre Dame team. Now, because of the rules of the playoff, they would not get a bye that first round because they're not in a conference. But I think it sets them up to, again, come in at maybe a 6th-ranked team, and that means you're going to probably play, number 12? So it sets them up pretty good, man. Sets them up.
To piggyback off that a little bit, like every other season, injuries are of a major concern. They already lost the offensive lineman who was projected to be a starter in camp. But the biggest question mark / guy that you got to keep healthy is the quarterback, Riley Leonard. Because he runs so much in the RPO game, he has mobility. I mean, the ability of him to get out of the pocket is one of his strengths. And that also brings about injury concerns, which basically derails his career at the end there at Duke. So I think that's going to be key for Marcus Freeman. But I want to say this too. I think the prevailing theme was control at the line of scrimmage. And I think that's like one of the beauties about college football. They still running the ball. It still matters. The team who controls the line of scrimmage in the run game, the team who stops the run game, typically has the better chance to win, outside of just turnovers and just, other things that are kind of just outside of that realm. But I saw like a concerted effort amongst every game, like people trying to establish the run game. And I think the teams that got away from that or got away from their game plan with that, I think those are teams who struggled. So then you start talking Florida State literally did nothing on either side of the ball in the run game, got pushed around. Literally looked like, man, I ain't gonna lie, Smitty. Elon versus Duke. Elon played harder in the run game and gave Duke a fighting chance. You know what I'm saying? Like they came in like, man, we gonna put it all on the line. Florida State looked like Elon was supposed to look on prime time. They were basically playing the Monday night game. And so, the thing is like across the spectrum, every game that you saw, the ebbs and the flows, the team that was able to stay with it, be able to get pushed. And you and I both know, man, 4 yards is a lot, man. And people keep hitting you 4, 3, 6. You know what I'm saying? You come to third quarter, man, you punch drunk.
Yeah.
And you looking for answers, man. Bring the safety down. Those type of things. And we've spoken about it before. The run game is the quarterback's best friend. Once you get that run game popping, now your safety's got to creep up, or you got to put somebody else in the box or something. You got to make an adjustment. You know what I'm saying? So,
And Paige, to your point, it's not even just the physicality of giving up those runs, but psychologically, your defense can't get off the field. Your defensive coordinator can't find an answer. Players are blaming each other for not being in their gaps, not handling their responsibilities. So once you're beat down, like you said, that third quarter coming around, especially that first drive where you're on defense coming out of the half and you still can't stop them with adjustments, psychologically you start to overthink. You start to really play out of position, to try to make a play or do something to stop it. And that is just one of the major impacts of having a solid running game can do for a team to ultimately take control of the game. You brought up the Florida State and Boston College. I think Boston College had over 200 yards rushing. Florida State had, 21? That was that psychological impact, not being able to get – the 3rd and 4, and they running it down your throat, and you can't get off the field. Oh, man.
And it's crazy because in a lot of ways you would think somebody just going over the top on you 80 yards would hurt you a lot more. You know what I'm saying? But it's the other way around, like you spoke to. It's like, all right, man, first down, we give up 4 yards. All right, man, come on, man. All right. Second down, they get another 4. Damn, come on, man. It's 3rd and 2. You know what I'm saying? Man, they keep doing that before they know it. They already at the 40. They're 40.
Yep.
At that point, play action pass, people eyes in the wrong spot, easy touchdown.
Yep.
And so, it's like when you get the run game popping, man, it's like they can keep messing with you. You plug one hole, all right, cool. We've been running the power to the right. Now we're gonna come back to the counter because you overplaying the power. Boom.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Now you got crazy stuff like jet sweeps. You got TC scheme pulling the tackle in the center. You got all different types of things that, it tests your rules, it tests your discipline. And you and I both know, man, when the plays start hitting, that discipline go out the window. Because now you trying your best just to, man, we got to hold them 2-3 yards, man.
And then you have to start subbing in sooner than you had thought, because that 3 and out then now all of a sudden has turned into a 10, 12 play drive. And instead of your starters being able to go the first 2 or 3 series coming out of the half, now they got, after that first series, they're gassed. So you have to start rotating guys in earlier than what you thought. And you and I both know when that offensive coordinator sitting up in that booth and they start seeing substitutions, that's when it really gets exotic.
Yeah, man.
So let's jump into the second quarter. Second quarter segment is eye-popping stat of this past week. And Pace, what's your eye-popping stat?
Man, this guy here, when I tell you, Smitty, he was wilding. Tetairoa McMillan. I might have said his first name wrong. Young man out of California, man, Servite High School. Got an interesting story. Was a 5-star recruit. He's 6'5", 215-ish, 4'4" guy. Had every college in the country. Every college in the country wanted him. He chose to go to Arizona, University of Arizona. At the time, the program was super down. For whatever reason, he believes in him. what he does is basically makes it a package deal with him and his quarterback. So the story between him and his quarterback was he met his quarterback when he was 14. The quarterback played quarterback too. Both of them played quarterback when they were young in Pop Warner. The quarterback's dad was the coach and made McMillan change positions to wide receiver. So now his son had a wide receiver. So they've had a lot of connections since they was kids, man. So check these stats, man. This young man had 10 catches, 304 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He averaged 30.4 yards a catch. I watched the game, Smitty. Man, when I tell you the boy was getting down, Smitty, I mean, he was giving it to him every which way. He had the longest touchdown he had was 78 yards. And literally, the second quarter was all him. And this isn't just a flash in the water. I mean, last year he went 90 catches for 1,400 yards, 10 touchdowns. In all the draft boards, he's second. In some of them, he's first with a young man named Luther Burden at the University of Missouri. So he's a real deal prospect, man. But I mean, I can't help but think that the connection with him and the quarterback, that they've known each other and been around each other, best friends since they was 14. He actually had a chance to leave the program because their head coach left from last year and took the Washington job. You know, the Washington coach went to Alabama. So he could have went anywhere he wanted to, man, probably got paid. But it's been documented, and they spoke about it in the game, that he was like, nah, man, I want to be a part of something. I want to help see this program back to being on top, to being, because Arizona has they got some history, going back to the Teddy Bruschi days.
Yeah.
They used to play good ball back there. Came on some hard times, some down years, but man, 10 catches, 304 yards, man. I mean, and the crazy part about it was at the time I started watching, the game was only maybe, let's say it was 17-13 Arizona. They were playing New Mexico State. Arizona was up. And he just went off, man. And they went from being like, 4-point up to they was up 20 just on his back, man. I mean, just getting down. So, yeah, that's my eye-popping stat.
My eye-popping stat is 129. 129. That's the total number of snaps that Travis Hunter played for Colorado against North Dakota State. He played 72 snaps on defense, which is still a lot of snaps.
Yeah.
And 57 snaps on offense. And to me, I think he's already – just go ahead and give him the Heisman because, just give it to him, man. We've had players in the past that have played both ways, for a little – you had Woodson. He did a lot, some things on offense, some things on defense. But I think for what Travis Hunter is doing to be productive throughout the entire game, playing both sides of the ball, to me – that sets him apart from everybody else in college athletics right now, especially college football. I mean, again, he's just on another level. He was doing it last year, so it's not like it's new to him. But he is carrying – yeah, you've got Shedeur. He's producing. But to do that at those two positions, you're talking wide receiver and corner. Corner being one of the most difficult positions on the field. And at wide receiver, I mean, he's making amazing catches. Arguably one of the best catches of the year so far. I mean, there's some great catches, but that will arguably be one of the best catches. And if he is not the front runner for the Heisman, something is wrong. Whoever does not put him at the top of the list should not have the right to vote. And, the question came up about what would he do in the pros. I think he may be the first player to go both ways more than just sparingly in the pros. I think he brings a tremendous leverage to his negotiations when it comes to contracts. And the reason being is a lot of people say, well, it can't be done. Well, as head coach, not only did Coach Prime play defense and some offense sparingly, this man also would do that after playing pro baseball at a high level. So you have someone there that can nurture you through the main thing, how to take care of your body. I guarantee when they hit in practice, Travis Hunter is not out there doing that, and nor should he be.
No.
So I think if he listens to Coach Prime, continues to take care of his body, do what he needs to do, I think we're going to continue to see him average 115 to 130 snaps a game because they need him. If he takes a break on any side of the ball and plays fewer plays than what he's played so far, Colorado does not stand a chance of winning, in my opinion. They've got some other good players at skill positions, but what he brings to the table, being able to take away half the field on defense and to be able to stretch the field on offense. And I don't know of a corner that can cover him other than him. I don't know of a wide receiver that can get past him other than him. So to me, I think that number of 129 snaps. Pace, let me ask you something, just to kind of give the listeners a snapshot. In the pros, how many snaps would you average a game? Let's say you with the Jets and you playing against a Brady where they're known for having long drives, extended drives at different points in the game. How many snaps would you still average in a game like that?
I'll give you the scale first. If you're in the 50s, you played a damn good defensive game.
Yeah.
That's damn good. If you're in the 60s, that's pretty good. If you're in the 70s, depending on who you're playing, it's not bad. You want to be, if you're in the 70s, you want to top out about 72, 75, which would probably be where the Patriots are, just because of the style of play that they had, and just call it what it is. You got the GOAT back there. We didn't have many just straight 3 and outs. We played them extremely well at home, but playing up there was just a different story. So sometimes, I mean, my personal opinion, I'm biased, but I think you can go look at the numbers. I thought we played, in my 8 years, I thought we played the Patriots better than any team in the NFL. It didn't equate to overall success for us, but if you just looked at how we played against them and were able to do even on our down years, we still could beat them at home. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That being said, it just depends who you're playing against, but college ball will be a little different just because of the style that you're playing. You got a lot more plays involved. So I got to imagine 70s is probably average. If you're somewhere in the set mid, low 70s, you're probably doing pretty well. 80s is probably your mid, B, C level defense. Anything higher than that, trash, right? But yeah, no, it's 72 plays isn't too bad. That means you got off the field some. I mean, team has some drives. And then sometimes some numbers can be skewed by things like 2-minute drill. You know what I'm saying? Because you're going to get a bunch of plays in. You might get 8 plays in before they even get to half field just because they're trying to dink and dunk, get out of bounds and stuff. But you made an interesting point, man, about him playing both ways in the NFL. And I actually think it works in a negative way against him with his money. Because in NFL, you get paid on what you're slotted in playing. And a team will take the cheaper way out to pay you. So let's just say he's a 1,000-yard receiver, but he's playing corner. Say playing slot corner. You're not even starting. You're playing a nickel corner. You know what I'm saying? You're still good. The slots get a lot of work in the NFL, so you're still in the action, but you're just not an every down player. You know what I'm saying? You're averaging 40 snaps a game. You're getting a couple picks. The NFL will try to slot you as a corner and pay you as a corner because wide receivers getting paid more money. If it was me, honestly, if I was him, from a longevity standpoint and being able to get in the game and thrive day one, I would say play corner. Strictly because he's going to be a man-to-man corner. It doesn't take much to really do much from that. You're just learning some terminology. You're learning chemistry with guys. You can get in and play corner and be effective early. Wide receiver is a different animal because you're going to need a good quarterback to shine, good offense to shine. Offensive line going to have to be halfway solid for your quarterback to have time. And the offense has got to be something that you can thrive in. I think he moves well in space to get open, a little bit better than he plays corner, in my personal opinion. I think he's a good corner. I just think he kind of I think he'll get muscled in the NFL a little bit. I think he's kind of flaily a little bit in defending. But I say this, man. I don't know we've ever seen anybody with ball skills like him, like elite ball skill, man.
Yeah.
I don't think in any level. I know Calvin Johnson was a beast. I know Larry Fitzgerald could track it well, extremely well. But this guy can go and get it. And he's been doing that since high school. I mean, if it's anywhere close to him, he is gonna be caught. You know what I'm saying?
And
So
that's why I'm excited to see where this falls. But to me, he's at the top of the Heisman list. Whenever they release that, he's got to be.
and
All
I
right,
say
man.
Cam Ward
Go ahead.
is a close second too. I think Cam Ward really has a chance to be in there because of the conference, and you spoke to the schedule, and they're gonna let him. He gonna be thrown all over the place. So I think Cam Ward is a close second in terms of being at the ceremony at the very least.
Yeah, and that's a good point. You brought up Cam Ward. That leads us into our third quarter and our game of the week. My game of the week for this week was, speaking of Cam Ward, Miami versus Florida. Miami won 41-17. And what I like about that game, what really drew me to that game and watching it, was beyond just the stats. We could run those off. But a few things that stood out to me. Miami seemed to have gotten their swagger back and backed it up. And they finally are producing on the field those great recruiting classes that they've been talking about every year for the past 10, 15 years. Each year they keep talking about, oh, we got this recruit. We're ranked here with our recruiting classes. And it doesn't really pan out based upon where some of these recruits came in at. And that's for varying reasons. But this year, it seemed to have clicked. They did really good in the transfer portal. They did really good with the players that they just recruited out of high school and developed. And they played, again, they went into the swamp early in the season. And they didn't just win, but they beat Florida down. And that you spoke about it when you talked about and there's some clips out there going around of Miami players going to the recruits that were there at Florida. That's that old school Miami swagger. Yeah. That's where that comes from. And to me, they have automatically become the favorites in the ACC. With that schedule they have, as I mentioned earlier, they're not going to play. Their toughest opponent right now, as far as on paper, is Georgia Tech, and that comes in November. So I think they've set themselves up perfectly to have to be the top team coming out of the ACC, to get that coveted top 5 spot in the playoffs, to have that first round bye. And I think that they're just going to get better as the season goes along. That's the scary part. Their confidence is going to continue to build. The key for Miami is going to be, can that coach keep it together? Can he handle being in the spotlight now? Because it's one thing when you're trying to build and you have to constantly answer the question of when you're going to produce. Now everything you do is going to be under that light of investigation. And you're going to be questioned. And can you keep that team? Can you take that swagger and keep it focused in the right way? Because swagger can easily turn into overconfidence.
Man,
at the drop of a hat, it can turn into overconfidence. So can you bring those guys together and keep them together for this stretch run that you're about to go on? Because just as I know, we've been in the locker room. We've seen guys walk by that schedule, and I'm pretty sure when they walk by that schedule, they're looking at it thinking, we can run the table. And is this team built to run that table? I think they are. If their biggest difficulty now is going to be, can that coach step in and keep that team together so that confidence doesn't become overconfident, and then they get shocked in the ACC schedule and kind of barely gets there and may not crack that top 5 spot. Because I'm gonna tell you, I'm keeping my eye on Georgia Tech.
Yeah, no,
keeping my eye on them. So that was my game. That was my game of the week. Which one was your game of the week?
I had USC and LSU. I just wanted to say something about Miami, man. That was everything to see, and it had nothing to do with them beating Florida. I personally feel that college football needs certain programs to be good. And I'm not saying that from the standpoint of they got to win championships. I think they got to be good just for college football in general because they bring the best out of college football. You know what I'm saying? Even if you look at Boston College and Florida State, for all intents and purposes, Boston College should have been extremely, extremely confident based on the fact that Georgia Tech beat them, but also it's Florida State, so we got to bring our A game, right? We got to play, and they did. They played kind of out of their typical Boston College that we normally think of them, and I think it just makes for better football. But listen, man, first and foremost, Mario Cristobal figured out the formula. It took him a little minute. He's always been highly thought of as a high school recruiter. And you got to think, this guy was the head coach at Oregon and left Oregon to go to Miami. He's born and raised in Miami, went to University of Miami, play offensive line. And there is no better talent base than South Florida. Really the whole state of Florida. If you can go to any high school and you're going to find somebody 4'4" and can go. So it's tough to do in Oregon in terms of a talent pool. And I think he understood, it's going to be a different struggle versus even if I lose half a class or whatever, man, I can go right down the street and there's talent for days in South Florida. But he wrapped it all up with the best bowl ever with Cam Ward, man. He really did. I mean, and it's true, man. If you know you got a guy back there, quarterback, man, it takes away a lot of worries. You can play with a different type of looseness on defense. Your special teams can be run differently. And, man, you could just see the belief in everybody, man. They control the line of scrimmage from the start. Even Cam Ward threw a horrible interception. Nobody batted an eye. They was like, oh, man, we ain't worried about it. Next drive, touchdown. Next drive, touchdown. You know what I mean? So when you got that, man, that's gonna be a tough out, man. Because then people it's gonna keep fueling everything. Everybody gonna keep playing harder. The chemistry gonna be better because the belief is real now. You in training camp and spring practice, man. We think we got it. We put it on display, and I'm pretty sure they still left a bunch of points out there. I'm pretty sure they probably could have did something better in some phase of the game. But that being said, here's the problem with Miami. The University of Miami is the team in Florida, South Florida. The University of Miami got more juice than Miami Dolphins. So, and the fan base been waiting. They've been waiting since Larry Coker left. And so you spoke to too much swagger terms and overconfidence, but another point that could be bad for them is they start reading their own press clippings, man. And you start believing what the people saying about you. And it's the fact of the matter is you can lose a game now. It's already been put out there. You can lose a game and still get into 12 and blah, blah, blah. So it's just complacency. It's just about, for me, for them to keep going as far as they can go, they got to attack it every day like people think they bums. You know what I'm saying? Like every day you got to come out there and get better and better. Anyway, my game of the week, man, LSU, USC. USC was ranked 23rd. LSU was ranked 13th, I think. Mm-hmm. And, man, if I had to give a game ball for that game, I would give it to an old teammate of mine, Dan Lynn, the new defensive coordinator they brought in from UCLA, man, called a hell of a game. Took a defense that couldn't stop a nosebleed. I mean, couldn't stop nothing in the last 3 years. And brought it, man. Brought it against some big dogs, you know what I'm saying, on prime time. I mean, it wasn't without mistakes. It wasn't without, miscues here and there. But they never really gave up a big play. They kind of stood the test, I think most defensive coordinators like, man, sometimes we're going to have to take some body blows, and we're going to have to figure it out. And they did that. I'd probably say they were great in the red zone. Probably the only thing they didn't do, actually did get a turnover at the end of the game. They got a turnover, too. Some exotic blitz packages that I think kind of confused the quarterback a little bit. And I saw a lot of plays that I actually was running in New York. You know what I'm saying? I think Dan took some stuff out of Rex Ryan playbook, man. A lot of stuff mugged up at the line of scrimmage, bringing stuff from the field, dropping defensive linemen here and there. And a great quarterback play, actually, on both sides, man. I'd probably say the difference in that game was their Miller Moss, the quarterback for USC, who sat behind Caleb Williams for a couple of years. he pushed the ball down the field a little bit more and was able to get some bigger plays. And this is my personal opinion, man. I think LSU's defensive coordinator was blitzing a little bit, and he was a little bit reckless with some of his stuff at the end of the game, and I think gave up some unnecessary big plays. Because, listen, man, from a skill position, really from a roster in general, it ain't no better than LSU. I'm talking top to bottom. They got it, man. If you want to see great cornerback play, watch LSU every week. If you want to see great wide receiver play, I don't care who they lose, they're going to have 5 more waiting. And we saw some of that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think it just came back to quarterback play, and USC made a couple more plays than LSU. I still feel good about LSU. I think LSU could be a playoff team. I really do with that roster. My take on that game, though, the discipline. They had 10 penalties. I think, stalled some drives and it just put on just unnecessary yardage for USC. And then, at the end of the day, it's a loss. It wasn't a bad loss. It was a loss to a ranked team. But to hear some of the comments from their head coach, Brian Kelly, after the game, kind of passing the loss off on the team and, talking about some things that I don't think that were necessarily breathing positivity into those kids, because they played well. They just wasn't on the winning side. I mean, the game really could have went either way. But that could possibly be detrimental to a team. You know what I'm saying? Like, getting that foxhole is supposed to be everybody in there. It ain't supposed to be the general looking down on you.
Yeah.
So, but again, man, like I said, it was a great ball. To me, it was the best football game the whole weekend. And we saw great talent. I think Lincoln Riley called a hell of a game on offense. Was able to create some movement on the offensive line. Took some body blows too, and found some guys, man. Some guys that aren't necessarily household names, made some big plays. Number 10, the receiver, man, out there killing, making Odell type catches. You know what I'm saying? So the future, I think for USC, if you can beat LSU prime time, you should feel good going into the Big Ten, for real. I'm not saying, definitely don't be overconfident, but the work they've been putting in, the changes they've made, I think they should feel good, man.
And Pace, when I talked about this game in the last episode, I said that Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly are both under pressure. And whoever loses this game is going to start to crack. Because while LSU has lost the season opener, I think the past 5 years, and they've gone on to have double-digit win seasons, Brian Kelly cracked under that pressure, and that you could see it in the press conference. That's what that was. His press conference was, I don't have an answer for this shit. That's what he basically was saying. Because, like you said, when a coach at that level starts to point fingers and express it being on the players, whether he was right or wrong, or not right or wrong, whether he was accurate or not, that to me was a coach that was frustrated with not being able to solve that puzzle of why the team cannot start off faster against better teams. And he knows it's him. He knows it's coaching, because the one thing about college football is your players will leave, and they're going to leave, whether it's graduation, transfer, or whatever. So when you have, this, not top-tier performance first of the game consistently, that's on you, the coach. That you've had these different teams. You've had a Heisman Trophy winner still lost the game, the season opener. And so to me, that was him feeling that pressure that was placed on him, because, again, you're in that SEC. So you're fighting for that playoff spot. And now you've just hurt yourself getting to that point, even though you may have those double-digit wins. And you may have to come in the back door to get that 12th spot. At the end of the day, that was him cracking under pressure. And that's where, for me, that was one of those moments where, you could look at a coach's salary and say, hey, You should be able to contain yourself. You're getting paid X millions of dollars. No, that was when the human came out. That's when that pressure. That's when it don't matter how much money you're making. The pressure from the situation had gotten the best of you, and I could sense it leading up to that game. And we talked about the known unknown, and USC answered a lot of questions about being different. Coach Riley answered a lot of questions about being able to get over the hump and now put his team in a situation and really trust his own coaching and his coaching staff. Where Brian Kelly is looking like, I may have to get rid of one of y'all or two of y'all if we can't start off in any better. Again, it's becoming their MO. So now the other top teams saying, hey, LSU's a great team, great program, but if we schedule them early, we can get them. We can get them.
So here's the thing, and I think we both understand this, but sometimes maybe our watchers don't understand this. When a coach says it's my fault, he doesn't literally mean that. Because every coach thinks his stuff is the best stuff ever. He's got the best coaching. They don't literally mean that.
Yeah.
What they're saying is the game just got over. Let's just take the two teams that did probably the worst, Clemson and Florida State, right? Now, however you feel about them, you should feel extra good about them as men to stand up there after getting their heads beat in and say, hey, look here, man, it's all on me. It ain't the players, it's all on me. Dabo ain't covered not one route. He ain't threw one pass. Same with North. They ain't did nothing from a physical standpoint. But what they're saying is, man, I don't want you going and beating them kids down, right? They already know they did bad enough on national TV on prime time, right? We're going to figure it out. We're going to go answer some questions. Some people not going to be in the same spot. Some people will get bigger, whatever the case might be. We're going to go evaluate some things from a scheme standpoint. You know what I'm saying? We're going to have to answer some tough questions. You know what I'm saying? But what they saying is, don't put it on them. Don't put it on the quarterback who had a shitty ass game. It's my fault. It's cool. It's on me.
Yeah.
Like you said about Brian Kelly with the money, I'm making the money. Put it on me. I got $11 million that I'm getting salary. Put it on me. It's cool, right? Most players love that, man, because the players know it ain't got shit to do with Dabo. They know Dabo ain't played no plays.
Yeah.
They understand, man, we ain't get it done, but appreciate you, coach. We're going to go harder next time. We're going to dive more into the scheme. We're going to, whatever it takes, we're going to do more. Versus somebody saying, oh, man, that wasn't on me, man. Hey, go in the locker room. That's them clowns. Man, they looking at it like, man, I mean, yeah, but come on, man. And, man, the thing about football, man, is the closer your team is, the better chance you have to do well. If everybody trusts in everybody believe in everybody, when you get in tough moments like LSU, if Coach Kelly would have said, you know what, man, them kids played their heart out. I made some bad calls that if I had to do all over again, I would have did it. But next time, man, we gonna be good. Their morale gonna be up better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're gonna be ready to come practice. Like, man, you know what? That wasn't us last week. Man, you put it all on them. They looking like, man, whatever, man. Like, seriously.
Yeah, but Brian Kelly has shown the way that he has exited from other coaching jobs and just those types of things, the way he's handled other situations, that he don't really care. He's looking out for him. Again, he cracked under that pressure, and that's what I was talking about. That's why this game was bigger than who was ranked where. Both coaches needed it. And when Coach Riley came out with it, that put him, to me, people look at him now differently as a better coach. Like you said, he fixed the problem of the defense, brought in a great coordinator. Those are some of the things that coaches, the head coaches, the elite coaches, are willing to do. Brian Kelly has showed, I haven't really changed. I'm still –
Lincoln Riley had to fire a friend. They was like, that's his best friend, the defensive coordinator. But he realized I had to do something because if I kept him, that shit was going to be me. And so, football, sports, life in general is what have you done for me lately? You know what I'm saying? It's like, you can produce a Heisman Trophy winner, but you can't win a big game. So, honestly, it was almost like I was watching the game. It's like Lincoln Riley wasn't even there for real. It's kind of dismissed him a little bit. And then, as the game was going on, the commentators started talking about him more. kind of talking about him and how he's been developing players and how he kept the quarterback, and you start seeing some stuff like, okay, he kind of, he
Yeah.
kind of switched up a little bit. You know
That's
what I'm
what,
saying?
again, there it is. So Pace, let's jump into the fourth quarter, man. We're gonna do in this fourth quarter, we're gonna do a conference analysis, and we're gonna start with our conference, the conference we played in, the ACC. Pace, I'm gonna jump in on this one. The kick, I'm gonna kick it off and then switch it over to you. The ACC, in my analysis so far, they look really, really average. As you and I talked beforehand, the ACC has 5 teams ranked in the top 25, none in the top 10. And they occupied the bottom part between 20 and 25, with the exception of Miami. And they came in with enough hype and enough momentum to really build off it, but just hasn't seen it. And to me, the difference is with the ACC, you don't have many, if any at all, elite coaches. Mac Brown is holding it together. Yes, Miami's head coach, he's emerging, but he still hasn't become that household name. And there are some great coaches. You still got Dave Clawson down at Wake Forest. He's still trying to hold things together. But outside of, say, Mac Brown, the head coach of Miami, Dave Clawson, how many other universities are clamoring to get the head coaches out of the ACC to come take their program over? And if you don't have that elite level coach that is just clicking, it's going to be difficult. And then with the teams that came in, no disrespect to them in their other sports, but when it comes to football, when I look at Cal, SMU, and Stanford, they didn't come in and, to me, add that football punch to the conference. Like years ago when the Big East broke up and we went in and we were able to get Louisville to come in. They made some noise, and Louisville's a team to kind of watch this year. They're making some noise cracking that top 25. But we were able to get Miami. We were able to get Virginia Tech. We were able to get Syracuse. We were able to go in and take the top tier of that Big East conference and bring them into the ACC, and that added some punch. Well, we weren't able to do it. We didn't get the Texas. We didn't get the USC. We didn't get the Oregons. We didn't get any of the teams that were top tier in that other conference that really could add that punch to us. And we had to now continue to lay that burden on being really top heavy. The ACC is, and what I mean by top, I can't even say top heavy. I'll say middle and bottom heavy. That's what most of our teams are falling right now. And while they are ranked, it's only week 2, but I'm disappointed in the way Clemson played against Georgia. Not that they lost, but just the way that they lost. And that, again, we talked about Miami and their recruiting classes, are showing that they are who we thought they were this year. The sad part is Dabo's method of developing players and not really going into the portal is showing that is not going to work now. You've got to either evolve or move out of the way. So for me, the ACC is just, they're playing really average, and I really see it being a middle to bottom heavy league at this point. I want my mind to be changed, but I got to see it. I've really got to see it. And with a lot of those teams playing each other, maybe the exception of Miami, I could see Georgia Tech potentially having another loss. I could see Clemson having more losses. Florida State's going to have more losses. Louisville is probably going to have a loss. And so with all of that, and these are your top-tier teams, I just think that, we're really this year we're really hanging on to the number 5 spot of the Power 5. And we may not, when I look at the other conferences and the teams that they have and their fan base and what people across the country want to see, we're hanging on barely, especially after these week 2 performances in terms of what the nation wants to see. They don't want to see Clemson play another SEC team. Georgia just dusted them off. You see what I'm saying? Nobody now is going to line up to see Florida State play an SEC team. it's just not. It's not there.
I think when you talk about the ACC, excuse me, you have a bunch of different storylines that speak to people trying to figure out things, and then you have people trying to reclaim a different identity that speaks more to their roster. And when I say that, I'm talking about Clemson. Clemson didn't have a first round draft pick at receiver. They typically have that. They don't have a first round draft pick at quarterback. They typically have that. Nobody on the defensive line wowed us. They typically have that. None of their linebackers made a difference. They typically, you know what I mean? So to me, for Dabo, and I think, you can look at a lot of coaches at the end of their career. Sometimes your stuff just gets stale. Your message gets stale. These kids are probably young enough to not necessarily remember you at your glory days. You know what I'm saying? Now, Dabo got a big shiny toy on his campus now. They're going to be wild about that. NIL money, I'm pretty sure, is not at the top 10 of what people will get. So in these days, a kid to go to Ohio State make more money and might not even play as much. You know what I'm saying? It's a money game now, Dabo. I think Florida State, man, they haven't mastered the transfer portal. Whatever they paying these guys, they need to get that money back, man. They're getting pushed around. They're not getting anything on the outside of receiver. And obviously DJ ain't doing much at quarterback, so that's their problem. I think Miami, obviously Cam Ward brings it all together, but listen, Mario Cristobal, like I spoke to, he's always been a top-notch recruiter. And I don't know if we know of seen a better, because you got to think he was a guy on Nick Saban's staff who was offensive line coach and the lead recruiter. So he's getting all those guys. He had a hand on a lot of Derrick Henrys and all those type of guys. So, we're talking about somebody who can acquire talent. There's never been a question about that. Now, how you can coach them up and lead them, that's a different story from years past. But, I just think, man, like you spoke to, the middle is strong. I think the parity is strong. Anybody can beat anybody, which I think makes for good football. But, when you start talking about somebody being at the top, I think Miami, if we just had to say today, is the cream of the crop. I don't see anybody realistically, as it stood today, contending with them. I'm sure some team's going to just come out of nowhere. We've seen Wake's done it, Pitt's done it. It's always a team. And even a team like NC State, you got a new quarterback out the portal from Coastal Carolina. You got Duke's got a new quarterback from Texas. But Manny Diaz is a coach. Manny Diaz is a defensive guy who hasn't had much success as a head coach. So,
But again, to look at NC State, struggled against Western Carolina.
Yeah.
But that's my point.
Got beat by Vandy.
That's what I'm saying. So here it is. The other thing that's missing, we're talking about Cam Ward and mentioned that if he's consistent with his performance, should be considered at least a Heisman outsider or maybe make the early list. But we don't have a legitimate Heisman candidate throughout the conference. At all. So, I just think this is one of those years where, to your point, the ACC may be going through an identity crisis because, we just haven't found that footing. And if the playoffs were held today, we would have one team ranked high enough to be in the playoffs, and that's Miami. One.
Yeah,
so
it's I think obviously once we start getting into some league play and kind of start seeing things kind of pan out a little bit. I mean, obviously it's not going to be Clemson or Florida State, but I mean,
it is what it is, man.
No, you're right.
Let's call it the way we see it. I mean, Florida State, they're 0-2 in the conference.
Yeah.
So you're already 2 games back from the conference, but we'll see how this shakes out, man. Let's jump into the overtime topic this week. We got some NFL news coming out, and that the NFL owners voted to allow private equity investment and ownership of teams. They cap it at 10%. The NFL is the last major professional league in the United States to allow private equity investment. And other leagues, baseball, they cap theirs at 30%. And what this means is an investment group can come in and purchase up to 10% of the value of the team, and that could be an influx of cash that owners can use for some of the public-private partnerships when you talk about stadiums being built. So just to kind of give you an example of what that looks like for our viewers, recently the Cowboys are the first NFL franchise. They were valued recently at $10 billion. And I think that's the right number. Yeah, they're valued at $10 billion. So that means a private equity group can come in, and for 10% ownership, that would mean $1 billion of influx of cash to Jerry Jones to do, what he feels to make that investment even stronger, whether it's upgrade. Well, they don't need upgrades to the stadium, but they can do some other things to build up that franchise, and now that is allowed with all franchises with a cap at 10%. So, Paige, kind of give your take on that as a NFL veteran. You played double-digit years. You've seen it all from a business standpoint, and also from a player. When you hear of a franchise that could be getting hundreds of millions of dollars of cash brought into them, what does that mean? Because to people when they say the Cowboys are valued at $10 billion, that doesn't mean Jerry Jones has $10 billion sitting in the bank. That's just showing what the value is. Well, now he can get $1 billion of liquid money that he can put his hands on to get some things done. So from a player, what does that mean to you when you hear that?
Two things. I would think, just like NBA and Major League Baseball, where salary caps in baseball aren't existent, and the NBA has a salary cap, but they also have luxury tax, so they can go over that. So I would have to think in the near future, either they're gonna greatly expand the cap or potentially eventually do away with it. And I think you're going to have to do that because of the quarterback pay. Speaking of the Cowboys, Dak Prescott will be a free agent after this year. They're already slotting him at $60 million to start with, salary-wise, saying he might be the first guy to hit 70. Quarterback, everybody needs a quarterback, and
they don't need him. Anyway, let me stop.
But, I mean, listen. The thing about it is, a guy like that doesn't really ever come available, because typically a team is gonna, keep him. And there's never been a player to have leverage like Dak. I don't know how he keeps doing it, but the guy has the most ultimate leverage. And believe it or not, Smitty, I think Dak is a top 10 regular season quarterback. I think if you take just the regular season, he's going to put up top 10 numbers every year. He's going to be in the MVP category, conversation, if he has weapons. His problem is just in the playoffs when it matters most. I mean, but you need a guy, right? So it's the same thing, and we've had this discussion. I was looking at some numbers. The San Francisco 49ers have the number one left tackle, Trent Williams. Top 3 linebacker in Fred Warner. They're paying Joey Bosa top defensive end money. They're paying Deebo Samuels $19 million a year. They just paid Brandon Ayuk, the receiver, $28 million a year. Christian McCaffrey's he's the league's highest paid running back. You know how they're able to do that? Their quarterback is counting for $899,000 on the salary cap. Right? You're able to spend money when you got a quarterback on a rookie deal. Right? That's the biggest window you'll ever have, because when you pay him, he's going to have the highest cap number, right? You start looking at, Tua just got paid. I think his cap number is $60 million. Eventually, they're going to have to start, teams that pay quarterbacks, in 2 or 3 years, they're going to have to start taking away some of the weapons, because we got to fall into these salary cap numbers, because this one guy's eating up so much of the cap, right? So I think you bring the private equity in, and I think eventually Goodell and the owners like I said, expand the cap number, because why? Man, there's probably no better business outside of maybe some pharmaceuticals and some other things that people just gotta have than football. You ain't never seen no football business that's for real run go out of business. It's something that's on almost every day of the week. We're playing to get the first game of one of the first games is in Brazil. It's expanding globally, and people want their brands on uniforms, on stadiums. I mean, there's no better way to kind of merge, pleasure and business, and have it run in a way that it is somewhat seamless. I mean, like you spoke to Dallas Cowboys. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be hard for Jerry to sell that. Anybody in LA, anybody in New York, it's not going to be hard to sell those. Maybe some of the smaller market teams, but still, I mean, if you're valued at $1 billion, you're still up cash wise. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, these people can't make any decisions day to day. They're just invested. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
It's a win-win.
And to me, though, and I think that, Paige, that's a good discussion for us to take it to the next episode. And I want to talk, I really want to go into is the quarterback salary in the NFL at the level that it is for quarterbacks that haven't even produced in the playoffs. Is it becoming a bubble, like a marketing bubble that's going to burst? Because you talk about, you have several formulas. You have the formula that San Francisco has, and look at the success that they've had in the playoffs, getting to the Super Bowl with that same formula. Well, like you're saying, Dak may break $70 million. That's great for the regular season, but you're not even getting to the playoffs. So why am I paying you 70, impacting me being able to bring in other players for you to take it to the next level? What's the best formula for that? Because, you got your Patrick Mahomes, and I'm not against players getting paid, but now quarterbacks are getting paid so much to the point to where running back position is being devalued, and I don't even think it's because of the role. I think it's because it has to be devalued so then you can pay quarterbacks. And that sometimes when you do that, you don't get to see the Tom Brady's and the Patrick Mahomes because everything is based on salary. And we've seen first-round draft pick after first-round draft pick not produce at that level once they get paid. And I don't know that if the NFL is creating a bubble, and that's kind of been around for a long time. I mean, it's not the first time. I mean, Brady took pay cuts to make sure they brought in talent. And I think that you have to have that. I think there was maybe a time where Peyton may have not gotten his full worth to bring in some talent around him and make sure that was taken care of. And while Dak, he's great in the regular season, but you don't play, you don't train and go through training camp just to be great in the regular season and not go to the playoffs. And so
the flip of that is, if you put Dak's backup in or any other quarterback's backup in, there is a higher than 60% chance that you're gonna lose. And
I agree.
The thing is like, it's like one of them things is like, it's either you got it or you don't have it. And, if you don't have it, you're searching for it. You keep going through this. Essentially, you're wasting rosters every year because you don't have the one piece that you need. Well, like we talked about earlier with Miami. It's not like Miami's had bad players. They just couldn't have somebody that could lead them offensively, somebody that protect them defensively. They just didn't have that piece, so none of it worked. I mean, you just was average as can be, 7-5, 6-6, 8-4. You could never do anything for real.
Yeah.
And then it's like when you get in the NFL playoffs, it's like really anything can happen. So you're like, hopefully this guy catches fire. But because there's so much pressure at that one position, it's, you can have a left tackle, man, just go on, he went from being average and now he looked like, Orlando Pace or somebody, just playing out his mind in the playoffs. But typically he's middle of the road. That typically don't happen at quarterback. At quarterback, you got to raise your level of play. And you really have to play the game on a different level in terms of, hey, sometimes I can't get points. Sometimes I got to flip the field. sometimes I got to just get off the field. You know, you got to really be in tune with a lot of different things because
Yeah.
the further along you get in the NFL, the more the quarterback plays a role. You've never seen outside of Trent Dilfer, you've never seen a Super Bowl played with mediocre quarterback play. Only reason he did it because the Baltimore defense was so dominant and the run game was so dominant. They was like, bro, just don't mess the game up. That was the game.
Yeah. And
You know what
that's,
I'm saying?
but that's my point. You had Joe Flacco was like that. They I
But
think
even
you could.
Joe Flacco caught fire in the playoffs that year. Joe
Yeah,
Flacco,
but it was that. I just think that you can
Eli's done
find
it. You know what
you
I'm
you,
saying?
you can find a
Versus
$40 million quarterback that can get you to that point, and you take that extra 30 and put the pieces around them. When you talk about that salary cap hit, but
and
when you're to the point where you paying your quarterback so much that you can't really help fill in the pieces, that's a problem.
so to that point where you were saying about the cap, I think it was going to head towards the cap if the private equity money had to come in. That's
Yeah,
just
that's a good. That's a good point.
I'm just kind of hypothesizing it. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
could be totally off base, but it
that's a
seems
good
like
point.
it's going to kind of go hand in hand. They're going to vote on, hey, we have to expand, just because at the end of the day, players are making money in college now. You know, salaries. You look at some of these salaries, man. The linebacker salaries have pretty much stayed the same last 4 or 5 years. They haven't risen much. Only the positions that are literally the offense, defensive line, wide receiver, and corners are the only people's money that's been going up steadily. The running back position, like you said, has been totally devalued. Whereas when I came in the NFL, it was quarterback and left. I mean, a running back and left tackle was making all the money. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? And so, you know, I remember around by '07, '08, I started hearing the term "it's quarterback-driven league." And then my first year in New York is the year that Tom Brady got his knee blown out the first series. And then after that, they started changing the quarterback rules. You couldn't hit him low. Then it
yeah,
started being you couldn't hit him in the head. Basically, you can't even touch him now. You know what I'm saying? And so, and you know, it's like you paying him all the money. Like, man, you can't be out here hitting this man like that. Man making $65 million a year this year. You can't. You a bum. That's how they basically what they say. You a bum. Keep your bum
yeah,
ass hands off that man. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
But you know, I mean, like I said, it was a story came out about a Colorado coach who was over in Saudi Arabia soliciting NIL money. And we've seen the Saudis get involved with golf, get involved with soccer. Spoke about this to you a while ago. It was only a matter of time before they get in football. It's only a matter
yeah,
of time before they have a game over there. Nobody does it bigger than them. I mean, you got
yeah.
Lamborghinis as police cars, man. I mean, I
And
mean,
expanding that season, expanding the NFL season, only increases the value and opportunity to make money. I just want to be in one of the groups. You know, I got a few $100 laying around somewhere that I can. I don't mind throwing in the pot.
401k out, man.
Hell yeah, Pace man, another dope episode. We're gonna come back, put some more out, talk about the NFL Week 1 coming up, starting Thursday. Again, man, another great show. Appreciate being able to come together, and we're gonna talk. We're gonna finish this discussion about this quarterback salary. Is it a bubble? And I want to really dive into that, and then we'll get into some Week 1 some Week 1 season talk, and also give a recap. We got Week 3 of college football. Man, we in the thick of it, Pace. It's
Yeah.
football season. That's what we've been waiting on.
Yeah, it's here, man. It is here now. So we're gonna have plenty to talk about, plenty to analyze, and predict as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Pace.